Now we can learn how to name acids. And you can think of acids as ionic compounds where H plus is one of the ions. And H plus is always the cation, and the anion is how you would name the acid. So all acids have H plus and they release H plus when put in water. And so binary acids are the simpler acids where it's just H plus plus one atom, which is an anion. So to name binary acids, you always put hydro in front of the name, and then you use the anion name. Usually it's the shortened name, and then the name ends in ic acid. So let's take a look at some of the binary acids. First, you have HF, and I always put aqueous phase with acids because if it's gaseous, you just name it as the ionic compound. If it were gaseous, it would just be hydrogen fluoride. But since it's aqueous and it's in water, that makes it an acid. So HF, since the anion is fluorine or fluoride, we would call this hydrofluoric acid. And all of the halogens have the same type of formula with their binary acids. So HCl, if you go down the list, is hydrochloric acid. Maybe you've heard of this one. HBr is hydrobromic acid. And then you have HI, and that one's called hydroiodic acid. And, there is at least one other that's not a halogen. So also H2S is hydrosulfuric acid. Since the anion is S2-, it's the sulfide ion. The other type of acid is called an oxoacid, and the anions in this case are polyatomic ions, usually of oxygen. And there are two types of oxoacids. One, if the anion ends in 8, then it's called, whatever the anion name is, it's called an ic acid. And then if the anion name ends in ite, it's called an OUS acid or an US acid. So let's take a few examples. H2SO4, aqueous. The anion is sulfate. So since that ends in 8, then this is going to be sulfuric acid. So we take the anion name, sulfate, and replace the ending with ic acid. In this case, we go back to the atom name sulfur. Another example is H2SO3. The anion in this case is SO3 2-. So that polyatomic ion is called sulfite. And so since that ends in ITE, this one is going to be called sulfurous acid. So now you've got the OUS ending. And you could see all kinds of different polyatomic ions in these types of compounds. For example, HNO3, aqueous. NO3, the anion, is nitrate. So since that ends in 8, then this acid is called nitric acid. So the anion name, nitrate, replace the ending with ic and then acid.